Great, thanks, Katie. So we're going to jump right into the results, and not to get into this deep survey methodology, but just to give you the high points. Mimeo sent out an online survey via email and social media to the L&D community back in April. We had a 2-week response window, and the survey had just 29 questions, so it wasn't too laborious, and everyone who completed it was entered in to win some great prizes. So there was a little incentive there. But today we kind of picked out some of the key observations and highlights that we wanted to share with you about the current state of L&D based on the survey results. I think this is going to be a great introduction to some information Jennifer is going to be sharing with us a little later in the presentation. So let's go ahead and just kind of jump right into the content here. Well, this first slide is not going to be any shocker to anyone. The results said that the L&D world is under-resourced, so again, not new news. On the next few slides, what we're going to do is take a little deeper dive on what that means, and I'm sure the stats will probably reiterate or reinforce what you may have been feeling subjectively, may shed some light on some of the topics, if nothing else. But on the bright side, you can feel validated, and you know that you're with some great company here on the webinar today. So let's look at our first result. I have to say this one surprised me. I didn't expect that the teams would be quite so small, but we're looking at the L&D size. The vast majority of the professionals work on pretty small teams. Actually, 59% of the respondents worked on teams that are fewer than 10 people. That being said, the majority of the folks on this webinar are probably in that category of working on these small teams. But if we look at the next statistic, it's going to take a peek at the size of audience that we're actually supporting. Looking at this graph, it's pretty impressive to think that in more cases or not, these small teams are supporting a surprisingly large number of learners. Most common audience size being that of over 1,000 to 5,000 range. And then if we include the next group down, starting in the 500 to 1,000 group, we're looking at 56% of the respondents are actually responsible for 500 learners or more every year. That means that there's a lot of responsibility falling on just a few shoulders, and I think the next slide is going to give us a little insight of how that's being accomplished. Probably, again, not earth-shattering revelation here, but it is confirmation that these L&D professionals are wearing multiple hats and they're juggling multiple roles. Statistically, it proves out that each L&D member is responsible for 3 key areas. Now, because each organization calls roles by different names and expects different things out of those roles, we standardized in this survey by asking each respondent what tasks they were responsible for and then define those roles based on those tasks. So the tasks that they were provided with to select were from deciding strategy, budgeting responsibility, hiring and managing, coordinating training, teaching courses, creating courses, and learning technology administrators. So from there, we actually created these 4 groups, which are training manager, training coordinator, trainers, and course designers. And Jennifer, I think you have some real insight onto this whole piece of the industry and the L&D profession and the roles that are kind of morphing these days.
I think the roles are morphing, and it's hard to put a name on what these roles are. We're actually creating a role on our team called Learning Experience Architect, and that's kind of a mixture of the facilitator of the training experience, whether it's the live training or managing an entire blended learning experience, and a course designer, because as anybody will tell you, being a trainer today is not the same thing as being a trainer 5, 10, or 20 years ago. It's a role that's really changed. We're in charge of managing student experience. We're not just order takers anymore. We want a customer service class on Thursday, right? We want to, it's let's create this whole experience, and not just, and the experience doesn't end. In a true blended learning or modern learning experience, these tools and performance support and everything else are used far after the formal end of a course. And so an experience architect, a learning experience architect, I think is what we're going to start to see.